All right, let's talk about, in your words, the Musketeers. As you know, Elon Musk and his staffers have essentially unfettered access to these government agencies and their systems, other than this court order from a judge on the Treasury system. Can you tell us exactly what Elon Musk is doing inside the federal government right now, what he's accessing and what he's doing with the data?
The Department of OMB, which contains the office for Doge, is interested in coming through government, not sweeping through, but going through government to identify not just their payment systems, but those monies that are scheduled to go out. As you know, Congress has to make a determination by March the 14th of not only whether we fund the government, but how we're going to fund that government. And Donald Trump wants to make sure that they have a hand at saying we're going to reduce the government here, and we're going to take payments that had been scheduled under the prior administration out of that ongoing effort. Why is this important? The same way that you just asked about Donald Trump. Since day one, he was going to reduce food prices. He was going to reduce commodities. Well, the same thing is true of reducing money that's being spent by the United States government. Elon Musk, through the Doge organization, is doing this.
I understand that is what was vowed. The hope is that Doge will cut down on excesses in the government, which, look, a lot of people support. But should there be any limits to what Elon Musk and his staffers access, to what they are able to do? Should there be limits?
The government is not yet put together. And what Elon Musk did do, what he did do, is to bring into these areas people who could go into the systems that are government data, government information, and print out the information that would be necessary as a request from the President of the United States. The question about whether these people, what they were going to do with the data, where it was going to fall, we are still trying to look at also. So we're gaining a knowledge about this also from the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, and certainly me as Chairman of Government Operations.
So what can you tell us? Because I think a lot of Americans, I'm sure you're hearing from people, are wondering, what are these people, many of them young staffers without government experience, doing with my private information? I mean, as we know, that they've accessed private information about, for example, those who have received disaster relief and the DHS system. What can you tell us about that data, what they're doing with it, what they're accessing?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're not interested in anybody's particular private data, because within these systems, they are payment systems of where money was going out, and they're gaining visibility and access to that. I will tell you that I strongly believe, that the request that they had, they were not receiving positive viewpoints on. People did not want to comply. So when they chose not to comply, they brought their own people in who broke into, so to speak, these databases and provided the information we needed, and the government people, computer programmers, were shocked that it could happen. So now that we've laid out some files, now that we have an understanding, think of all that we have learned about unnecessary, unwanted, and I think against the interest of the United States data. That is what Elon Musk and the President and I are learning. We're learning about payments that were unnecessary and not in the best interest of the American people.
And of course, that, as you well know, would be depending on the person looking at those payments and where they're going to. There's different opinions. But just to follow up with you, you said you emphasize access. But couldn't access still create a conflict of interest concern? As you probably know, for example, DHS, we were just talking about that. Musk has a contract with DHS for his private companies. Are you certain that this data that they're having access to is for government efficiency purposes only? How do you know for certain that this access isn't being used for other reasons? For example, to get competitor info, to help his AI projects, for machine learning. I mean, how do you know that for certain?
Well, one other question would be informational, and that is, do you think that money that's being spent by the government, millions of dollars, unless it is for entirely a private or secret effort, should not be known by people? And I think that
I don't
what
think
they're
anyone's
learning,
saying that. People do want to know that. People do. I think it's a question of the process and how it's being done and the lack of transparency surrounding it.
well, let me just say this. We have asked for more and clear data and information about those lines of, in particular, not just privacy, but the national security issues, and we expect to receive that. But the bottom line is that they need to do this to make a determination about things that will determine what we're going to spend our money on, what would be in appropriations, and how we're going to fund the government moving forward.
And I hope when you get that information, you'll come back on the show to share, because a lot of people are wondering. Just to follow up with you, because the conflict of interest laws require financial disclosures, for example. He's a special government employee. He would be subject to that. Would you like to see financial disclosures? Would you like to see Elon Musk testify to your committee about the work he is doing and what he's doing with that data?
I think that we will get to that, and it will happen, what I would say, sooner than later. We will be very pleased to not just clarify that relationship, but who is doing that and under what authority. And I think that these are all questions. If we intend to have the American people see the benefit of what we're doing, it has to be above board, and that is exactly why you're asking these questions, and I owe you an answer.
Well, I appreciate you acknowledging that. Thank you. And I'm just channeling in my job. I'm a vehicle for people's questions, and I know I'm hearing from a lot of people wondering all of this. And just to get a little clarity on what you said, so it sounds like you would be interested in bringing Elon Musk to testify to your committee. Is that right?
Well, I think what's important is for us to make sure we understand the relationship that exists between he and what's Doge at OMB. Is that relationship a contractual one? Is that one where he has a fiduciary responsibility? We ask outside vendors to come in and gather information all the time that then ends up in what would be the government as opposed to that person who pulled the data. And I don't understand enough at this point to understand, is it actually Elon Musk that gets the data, or is it OMB? And I have a belief that it's OMB, that we hired outside government contractors. They came in and extracted the data, gave it to Doge, and Doge and OMB will professionally use that data. That's what I choose to believe, and I believe would be a business model I could support.